Welcome to Hormones and Handstands,
with Pippa Campbell and Victoria Woodhall,
a functional hormone nutritionist and a beauty editor and yoga teacher's guide to acing the challenges of midlife.
Victoria, where are you? You're not at home.
Hi, Pippa. No, I'm not at home. For the past week or so, I've been on a fasting retreat in South Germany. It's my third time here. I'm here for 10 days doing what they call long-term fasting. And that's no food, well, we have broths and juices I'm doing 8 days this year. Previously, I've done 5. And I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh my goodness, talk me through this seriously. So you are hardly eating anything for 8 days. Or where are you? What day are you on now?
I'm on day 5. So people think I'm crazy spending my new year in the beginning of January like this, but it makes me feel so good. For me, it's the perfect start to the new year mentally and physically. And it is challenging in places, but overall, the sense of well-being you get afterwards is really, really worth it, in my view. And that's why I'm back for my 3rd year. So the days, it's sort of in 3 parts. You do this food prep day where they give you quite bland meals. It's either a rice day, a potato day, or an oat day. And it's sort of vegetables based around the carb as well. And it's quite low calorie, about 700 calories. And it's bland. It's got no salt because you want to get rid of any excess water retention. So I have to say, first of all, that I'm not here for weight loss. That's a big question I get asked. You're slim, you're already fasting. Are you all right? And yes, of course, this is medically supervised fasting. I wouldn't be allowed to fast if there was anything amiss.
Victoria, I have to say, you look fantastic. And another thing is, it's crazy, really, that people think fasting is all about weight loss.
Oh gosh,
It has nothing to do with weight loss. Fasting really is a way of people sort of getting into autophagy. So that's cellular repair. It's that rest and repair mode where our body can go up. It's like a Pac-Man, I think, all around the body, munching up all sort of rusty cells, inflammation. So I know people do it for weight loss. Of course they do. But the main benefits really here we're talking about with fasting is this autophagy, which is what you want to feel better. You want to slow down the aging process as well.
Exactly. So it's brilliant for longevity. It increases your antioxidant capacity. It's highly anti-inflammatory. But obviously, some people are here for the metabolic gains. It can reverse or impact type 2 diabetes. If you're pre-diabetic, it's going to have a huge effect. If you've got any other metabolic conditions, it can really help. So going back to the first day you arrive, you get this very bland day of food. And that is to start the turning off process of your digestion. So you're not overstimulating, because this is a time when you really go into a period of rest. I think people forget that the immune system is so involved in processing food. Your immune system has to kind of okay every single bit of food you eat. And we eat a lovely varied diet in our normal life. But each thing we eat is a kind of little job for the immune system. So you're allowing your immune system to have a rest from its normal kind of involvement in eating and focus on other things. The bigger projects that perhaps need a little bit of attention, like some inflammation. I've got a few joint aches and pains, things like that. So the bland day is no salt. So the first bit of weight loss that you will see, and everybody will see weight loss, is water weight. So any excess water retention. And actually people with edema and water retention do really well here. And it's also to power down the nervous system. So get you in a state of calm, because you're not having spicy food. It's nothing exciting. And then on the next day, you start your fast. And it's pretty much the same pattern for 5 days or 8 days or 10 days, however much you're doing. You have to do a minimum of 5 in order to have the benefits. And you have to be signed off by a doctor as healthy and fit and healthy to fast, both physically and mentally. So the first port of call on when you arrive is with a doctor. And they will ask you a number of physical and mental, sort of psychological questions about about you. They'll weigh you, they'll measure you. If your BMI is too low, you won't be able to fast. If you've got underlying conditions, they'll make an assessment as to whether you're suitable for fasting. I have a liver condition, Gilbert syndrome, which is benign in me. It doesn't really flare up, but I was warned that fasting might cause a flare up. And if it did, they would take me out of fasting, and then they would give me really sort of healthy, organic, plant-based food. They've got a restaurant here, but it's round the corner, so that those of us who are fasting don't have to kind of smell the food and see people eating.
That's that there's a proper screening, because you're right, there are those underlying conditions, underactive thyroid that is not being managed, for example, because fasting can slow down the conversion of T4 to the active hormone T3. Now, this could be just a temporary thing anyway. If you're doing just a once a year fast, it's not necessarily going to be a long-term thing. But there are other things. And as well as you said, nervous system. But for some people, if they have really severe nervous system dysregulation, or suffering with anxiety, for example, because it increases adrenaline and cortisol as well. So I think that's really good that they check that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are lots of therapies, lots of massage therapies, body therapies, but also psychological therapies that you can have here to accompany your fasting. And they do a blood test, so they check for all the like key organ markers and things like vitamin D, vitamin B12, thyroid. And I've had my blood test back this morning. I'm all fine. A little bit low in vitamin D because I hadn't been taking it the couple of weeks before I came here, and it just shows. So they've given me some vitamin D to take. And they give you these fasting minerals. It's magnesium, zinc, and calcium, which just prevents a gout attack, which apparently is possible if you're fasting. I think because of the increase in uric acid that produced in the fasting process.
But they'll give you, the good thing is, with those minerals, which are really helpful. So,
Yeah, magnesium, of course, if you're a bit tense, it really helps you relax and helps you sleep.
and potassium, I love. I think potassium is unsung hero of electrolytes. So I think that's a really useful one.
Yeah, that one is not in this one. It's just calcium, magnesium, and zinc.
If you've got the magnesium, which is essential and actually helps improve the autophagy anyway, really.
Yes, it does. So day one, after you've seen the doctor, you have these horrible things they're called Glaubersalz. I don't know if there's
Say that again.
Glaubersalz. I know, I'm half German, so I
Oh, so
get into
that's why I was thinking your accent. How can you say that so well? Say it, say it slowly.
Glaubersalz. So Salz means salt. I don't want the Glauber bit, I think, is to do with, like someone's name. I don't know. But anyway.
Glaubersalz.
Yes, they make you poo, essentially. So it's a bit like a kind of Epsom salts, I guess. You
Yes.
drink it, it's very salty, it's pretty disgusting, and you get everything out. And the reason is you are slowing down, if not even stopping your digestion. You are on digestive rest. So this is a profound rest, not just for the digestive system, but for the nervous system as well. And this is why I love it because, like you, I'm a type A, always on, always filling my life with things. I never get to rest. So I'm resting in a really, really managed and profound way. So, yeah, so if you have stuff left in your system, it might ferment and go off and kind of give you symptoms like brain fog and things. Because your digestive system, you're not chewing anything for the next 5 days or 8 days. So nothing is going through. So you've done your salts, you've done your big poo.
You fat yourself, basically.
Yes, well,
I mean,
yes, yeah. So
I know what those things are like. I've had them before, and they are pretty effective.
yes, so you take your salts, you stay very close to a toilet, and then you run, and then it's all fine. And then everybody is on a regime of juices and soups. So lunchtime, you get a choice of a juice or a soup, and they are basically quite clear, watery liquids. Soup, you can always see the bottom. And then in the evening, it's just a soup. And that is about 250 calories. And the reason they count calories, it's not because we're obsessed with calorie counting. It's to keep you in the fasted state because you want to go into ketosis. So you need to be they tell me here, you need to be under 500 calories to go into ketosis. And that happens on probably about day 2, day 3. It's very individual. And ketosis is where you make the metabolic switch, which you know all about, Pippa, from glucose burning to fat burning. So you've used up all your glucose stores in your blood, in your liver, in your muscles. So your body needs to search for alternative fuel, and it does two things. It uses fat, which is great for visceral fat. If you hold fat around the organs, you can even be slim and have visceral fat. I remember the late Michael Mosley told me that he was what they call toffee thin obese. He had excess visceral fat around his organs, and fasting helped him with that.
You can. Skin people can. In fact, I was horrified to find out just before Christmas that my visceral fat, it's still low, but had gone up by one indicator because I have this Tanita machine that can tell visceral fat and muscle and that sort of thing. It's a machine I used for years with clients with weight loss when I was doing in-person clinic. And I hadn't used the machine for ages, but now I'm so desperate not to lose muscle. And in fact, I've been gaining much muscle, which is great, but I increase a bit of visceral fat. I say, oh, no. But it's that natural stage at later perimenopause when I can just see slight redistribution of fat. That's all. I mean, no, I'm not concerned.
Mm.
Just a slight, the way they change our body shape a little bit.
Yeah. And there is a concern about muscle loss in fasting, which is unfounded actually, because they've done a study here. So here at Buchinger Wilhelm, this is the name of the fasting clinic where I'm at. They did a study on muscle performance during 10 days of fasting. And they had a number of participants who were measured before fasting. How much weight could they lift? What was the performance of their muscles? And then right after the fast, it showed that they had lost no muscle performance whatsoever. But I have to say that movement is an integral part of this program. You can't just sit in bed watching Netflix, although I do that, which is a real treat.
Is extraordinary because we know, even like with the weight loss injections, we know that it's partly to do with the speed of the weight loss, that muscle loss is a big part of it. So this is incredible that you're doing a fasting program where they clearly have looked into all the science. They've got all, the doctors there. That what they're doing, that's extraordinary because some people will be losing a lot of weight, but they're not losing muscle. So I find that absolutely, it's fascinating as you go into autophagy, which is your, the clean up and repair sort of time. And generally a pure fasting would be absolutely 0 calories, but I can see what they're focusing on is more ketosis, aren't they? They're doing
Yes.
keto fasting.
Yeah. So the reason why they give you soups and broth is to help preserve muscle. And that's really important. And because also being out in nature is really important too for this whole kind of spiritual regeneration, which is they're really big on that here too. It's the big questions in life. Why am I here? Who am I? What do I want? After I've kind of powered down my digestive system, I'm kind of taking things out of my life. I've taken myself out of my normal environment. When I'm done, what do I want to put back in? And you can have the space to have those kind of thoughts here. So there are daily 2-hour hikes around the lake. So I'm on a beautiful Lake Constance and it's a little bit hilly around, and you can do hikes at level 1, 2, or 3, depending on your mobility and your energy levels. There's a really good gym. I've been to the gym. There's a pool. I've been doing these lovely moonlight swims as an outdoor pool. I know.
Are they nudie? Are they nudie swims?
No, but in the sauna, there's lots of mixed nudity in the sauna, which is a bit of like a bit of an eyeful.
Yeah.
But that's just me being British. Yeah, so movement is a really important part of the program. So I've been teaching yoga while I'm here as well. So I do have the energy for that. So going back to day 1, I've done my big poo, and then they come in with a liver wrap. So it's like a hot water bottle and a hot compress on the liver because they want to support your liver in the detox process. And they enforce rest. So between 12 and 2, there's nothing going on here. You are made to rest. And that is also perhaps the biggest challenge for someone like me.
So like a castor oil pack type thing, it's sounding like, because I love doing a castor oil pack. I'm quite impressed with that. I like that idea.
Yeah, so you have your soup, you have your liver wrap, and then in the evening you have your second soup, and you maybe have done a hike or whatever. And then the next day you don't have the salts, but you start with they bring you a cup of tea. So it's really lovely. It's like being looked after. You become almost like a child. You get swaddled in your liver wrap. You get an enema every second day. That's optional, by the way. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. and everything is organized for you. So you really do have time to just rest and think. So the other thing you do get alongside your juices and soups is a little pot of honey. And it's about a tablespoon, 20 grams, and you can kind of nip it throughout the day. And honestly, I can eke out this tablespoon of honey all day, and it just gives you that little pick me up when you're feeling a bit low, because fasting can cause low blood pressure, and I do have had a bit of low blood pressure.
So low blood pressure often goes with low blood sugar. So the two are often go together. So that little bit of honey is just preventing your blood sugar from dropping too much. So preventing then that sort of dizziness that you might feel and pushing, really pushing your nervous system. So I like that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Yes, and it just gives you a little bit of a pick me up throughout the day. So
Mm.
then you're on the same pattern for the next 5 days, 10 days. Some people here are here for like 5 weeks. I've met a lady 3 times now who she's got polyarthritis, so sort of arthritis in lots of joints, and she's had cancer. And so she's here to recover and to benefit from the anti-inflammatory aspects of fasting, which are really good for rheumatic conditions. In fact, the Otto Buchinger, who is the founder of this clinic 100 years ago, he came across fasting. He was a doctor, and because he cured himself of polyarthritis on a 90-day water fast. And since then, he's with help people get healthier with fasting. And I think the reason why sort of Western medicine or conventional medicine hasn't really taken up this really powerful healing tool is there's sort of nothing to sell really. There's no pill. I suppose, GLP-1 is the nearest thing to it, is eating less.
I mean, it's not, I'm a naturopathic practitioner. So, because of that, it's fasting. I mean, I'm not talking about how long, like intermittent fasting, which we'll get on to talking about, but that's just something that's been around forever and it's a naturopathic principle. But I like the way that he is not adopting the 90-day water fast, that you are getting some calories. And I think that is important, especially for women. And it depends, as I said, different stages. You're in menopause now, Victoria, aren't you? So your hormones are more there. They're more sort of settled where they're at. Whereas I think a woman in perimenopause, where their hormones are jumping around all over the place, would have to be a little bit more careful. But again, what we're talking about here is just 5, 7, 8 days, whatever, in your life. We're not talking about this as a daily practice. And I quite like the fact that you are doing all these other things as well. I mean, and yes, my brain hardly ever switches off. So I imagine that the thinking that you're doing there, but more like the thinking in nature, that you're just immersing yourself in what you're doing there.
Exactly. So I'm doing a lot of journaling while I'm here. So I have to say, day 3 was the hardest. I felt like I've been hit in the face with a spade. I was like, oh, my brain just can't wake up. I feel really foggy. I hadn't slept. I've got no energy. And I just spent most of the day in bed. And that's absolutely fine. But I think that's the day when my metabolic switch flipped. So my body was going through this process to fat burning, and also to, like you say, autophagy. So autophagy, as we've said, is eating up the dead and senescent cells, because your body has to look for alternative sources of fuel. So fat is one, and cellular cleanup, the dead wood. If you had a broken table, for example, in your house, and you'd run out of firewood, you'd use the table, wouldn't you?
Yes.
The broken table is not functioning in your house. In fact, it's getting in the way. So these kind of old, dead and dying cells in our body are cluttering up our body and actually getting in the way of us being healthy. So
We need to clear up. I mean, there's an awful lot where biohackers talk about, boosting our mitochondria, talking about sort of autophagy. And I think what we have to remember is what you've just said. So important. Get rid of the old before we boost the new. You can have mitochondria, which are the powerhouses of our cells, which autophagy does boost mitochondria. You could have rusty old mitochondria, and you go out there doing hyperbaric oxygen chambers or doing this, that, the other to try and boost this mitochondria. But if a lot of them are sort of old and rusty, you need to get rid of those first. So I'm a big fan of get rid of the old, bring in the new. I think, that is absolutely key.
yeah. And enemas. Should we talk about enemas?
Let's talk about enemas.
Okay, so they are optional here. And so basically, it's not like a colonic. So a colonic goes all the way up to the upper intestine, whereas these enemas are just in the lower part of the bowel. And again, that's to get rid of anything that's stuck. Because remember, we're not moving food through the intestines. Everything needs a little bit of help. Of course, they're optional. And I think they give you some salts or something to help you if you really don't want it. But it's quite funny. A nurse comes in, you just lie on your side, you bare your bum, and they stick a hose up your bum and they drain. They have a bag of warm water held high, and you drain 1 litre of warm water into your bum. You try and hold it there for 3 minutes, and then you run to the loo again. So lots of running to the loo.
So does hot water, it's not a coffee enema. So I've done the odd coffee enema. We're just talking about hot water. As you say, colonics get right up into the large bowel. This is sort of really just in
Yeah.
the lower section, but can just be very useful in clearing anything that is hanging around.
Yes, hanging
Just
around.
getting rid of extra poo that you're not clearing. I mean, women, let's face it, so many women get constipated. And
Mm,
often they don't think they're constipated. Think, oh no, I go once a day. Likelihood it is, if you're only going once a day,
mm.
you're probably still constipated. But so that's a good way of just flushing everything out.
Yeah. So, no coffee enemas is just literally just water. And that's every other day. So, that is generally the pattern of the day. And I should say as well, at the beginning of the day, your first port of call is with the nurse. You get weighed, you get measured. She or he checks in. How are you? Do you need anything? Do you need some help to sleep? Have you got any aches and pains? How are you doing on the fasting? So, you're checked every day to make sure it's still right for you and that you're still feeling okay and that the processes you're going through are normal. Like my down day on day 3, they said, well, it's day 3, it's perfectly normal to feel a bit whacked.
So normal, but we even get that on our weight loss plans, for example. So any plans or detox plans we do, our Pippa Campbell method weight loss plan, for example, day 3 can be a horror. And it's, as you say, it can be pushing into, because you can get into more of that fasting mode and reducing those insulin spikes, regardless, even if you are still eating food. But sort of, it's not just a detox symptom that's happening. What is also happening around day 3 is sometimes withdrawal symptoms. So from foods that either don't suit us, or we've just been eating a lot of the same foods and might have started, create a bit of sensitivity, for example. So I think it's just sometimes a withdrawal feeling as well. And that is totally normal. Headaches, feeling really tired. So if you can rest, and it's great that you're in an environment where you can do that, because I mean, we've had clients over the years that, have felt so ill, probably because their diet hasn't been that great. And they felt so ill with withdrawal symptoms that they've had to take time off work.
Mm,
So it's almost like fasting, a bit of it like a fasting flu, but you have to go through it, and you're doing all that. They're giving you all the right support for that.
exactly. I have to say, I wouldn't attempt this type of fast in my daily life because I'm a cortisol type, as I learned from you. I need my breakfast. I would find the whole experience too stressful. But here it's not stressful. You are deliberately encouraged and shown how to power down. Um, Lots of people are asking me this, how do I do it at home? Well, so from talking to the experts here, what they tell me for me is if I wanted to fast at home, intermittent fasting, so a 16-8, something like that, or even a 14-10 would be good because you still get the metabolic benefits. You're on digestive rest, um, but there's less stress involved. And they've also found that eating breakfast and then stopping eating sort of 4 o'clock or whatever the hours would be is more beneficial than skipping breakfast and eating late. But obviously, we all have lives and families, and we've got to eat with other people. So you just do what's best for you.
Time restricted feeding is
Yes.
more what I'm, about, and what I, looking into with clients and what I've done, rather than intermittent fasting. I have rarely found a client that does well with, say, fasting for 16 hours. If, again, it depends how metabolically flexible they are. So we are supposed to move from that fasting. So this is the stage where we are clean up and repair mode, autophagy. We're supposed to be able to move from that into the feasting, build mode. It's called a sort of mTOR, sort of build mode. So we're supposed to be flicking between the two. Some people Women tend to be more metabolically flexible, actually. So we don't tend to need to fast for quite as long. But it really depends how insulin resistant they are. They might need to fast for a little bit longer. But you can absolutely achieve all of this at home without going to the extremes. As you said, you've got all this calm environment. What happens when you do long intermittent fasting, you keep doing this, it does increase adrenaline and cortisol. I find women in perimenopause and menopause tend to be quite adrenaline dominant anyway, especially us A types. So if you're spiking cortisol already and you've got that adrenaline about, then that intermittent fasting can increase it even more. So it's not a good idea. Some women may do absolutely fine with just 12 hours fasting. And I think that's a great place to start. So people listening, people who are asking you, I think what you're doing, you keep that for your retreats. What you're doing at home, then try 12 hours and then try maybe 13 or 14 hours. If you are under huge amounts of stress, then maybe 12, 13 hours is all you need to do. And make
Mm.
sure that you are eating a good 20 to 30 grams within a 1 hour of waking. So that's really, really important. And then if you've got low thyroid that isn't being managed as well. So it is very, very individual. Of course it is. But we can achieve all of this at home.
How you feel when you embark on a fast like this does depend on how you were before you arrived. If you've had a lot of stress, a lot of rich food, a lot of alcohol, loads of caffeine, and over the Christmas period, we've all done that. It's going to be harder to do without those things. So if you can power down, if you can do some at-home prep before you start, I cut out caffeine only one day before. I should have done two, and it did leave me with headaches, but I was expecting that, and they did give me some aspirin here. So yeah, so if you're thinking of doing something like a water fast at home,
Which identifies.
you don't. Yes, yeah.
No.
Okay, well that's interesting. But lots of people who've contacted me while I've been on this fasting retreat saying, I'm doing a 72-hour water fast. I do an annual water fast every January. So let's talk about water fasting, because
Yeah.
I think what people do is they have all this Christmas excess and then they think, oh God, I've got to get rid of it all. I've got to get myself back on track. I'm just not going to eat. This would be disastrous for me. And I think it's really hard to do in daily life because you're surrounded by people eating, you're surrounded, you've got the fridge, you've got your food cupboard. And I would be utterly miserable doing that. But some people find it beneficial just to say no to food for 3 days. And I think this is probably a weight loss detox tactic. What's your view on water fasting?
Right. Well, I'm not a fan at all of removing everything, literally only having water, because I think we do need a certain amount of amino acids as well to support detoxification. But I my concern is that this is very much a cold turkey Caroline. So a cold turkey Caroline who might go all out at Christmas and then all out on a water fast. And then there's no consistency throughout the rest of the year. And I think sometimes people say, oh, I feel great water fasting, or I feel great not eating for 16 hours. And I'm like, why? Why then? Why? So one, as I said, it increases adrenaline and can spike cortisol. So imagine somebody who is actually got low cortisol, not high. They're already running on empty. They feel tired. They don't have the energy. So what it does is increases adrenaline when you're fasting.
Wow.
So they have suddenly got energy and they go, I feel great. Slightly wired, maybe, but they feel great. They're running down the road or something. They feel great. They've got that energy, but it's adrenaline. Okay, so it's sort of false energy. Then people who say, oh, but my digestion is so much better. Well, what was going on with your digestion in the first place? Why can't you digest normal food? Do you see what I mean? So I'm always interested to know why. Why do you feel so much better? And then after your 3-day water fast, what happens next? Because I'm not about quick fixes. I'm about what can we do to help you long term? What can you implement that you can stick at? I do also think there are some useful things that you can do to help you with this metabolic flexibility. We know the best one, actually, supplement wise, is berberine.
Oh,
Yes, that can really, it's like a metabolic nutrient, and that can really support this AMPK, so a pathway that can help us push more of this autophagy. So things like berberine, green tea, there's a little bit of research there as well. Resveratrol, we know that can be very useful, and cinnamon. So there are certain foods that we can do to support us. But I'm just not really a fan of anything extreme. I prefer women to try and teach themselves to commit to something longer term. Look, I mean, I do believe that maybe the first few weeks in my Pippa Campbell weight loss plan, for example, then the first 3 weeks, we are removing alcohol. Yes, we do. We're saying, things like no snacking. That's one of my 5 foundations. And we are saying really for the first 14 days, 21 days, there's no what I call social meal. So try and just like find a time where you're not going out with friends, socializing. But then after that, I want people to, if they still want to lose weight, for example, I still want them to go out, say once a week or enjoy certain foods. You need a certain amount of calories to boost, your metabolism. What I'm not a fan of is women sort of, if you're going to fast, you're going to fast. That means absolutely no calories. So this is when they're doing it at home for 12 hours or 13 hours. And that does mean no bulletproof coffee as well. So Dave Asprey, he made very fashionable this bulletproof coffee where you are putting MCT oil into your coffee and sometimes collagen as well.
And butter. So
Yeah,
butter
oh, yes, of
coffee.
course, and
Yeah.
butter. Now, that is for you, this would be a nightmare, Victoria, with your sort of Gilbert syndrome and then because how that affects your ability to break down fats, for example. I mean, this would be a massive burden on your gallbladder. So it'd be way you're drinking fats. But however, that is breaking a fast. Look, it's a fatty coffee fast, whatever you call it. It's not true fasting. You are having calories. And my concern there is you're, drinking a lot of fats. And I would prefer to get in the protein instead, because when you fasted for, say, 12, 13, 14 hours, you then need to go very quickly into build and repair mode. And that's when we need to mTOR. That's when we need protein, 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 at least 20 to 30 grams. Now, I'm a bit naughty in some ways. I do a sort of weird sort of fast. I'm not truly breaking a fast, but I take some amino acids when I wake up. So in theory, it's not really breaking a fast at all, because it doesn't affect insulin. It doesn't affect, it doesn't have enough calories, for example,
Why do you take amino acids when you wake up?
blood sugar.
Explain.
Because I've gone into perimenopause, I find I wake up when my blood sugar's low.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and it's very, very common. I see this in clinic all the time. Women, sometimes we get on the CGMs, but also I know because they wake up and they might feel a bit shaky. So as soon as I wake up, I take my gut repair supplement, because that's when I've, got an empty stomach and I can do a lot of repair. I take my gut repair supplement and I take some amino acids. So I like the Perfect Aminos, Body Health. I like those in a powder form. It works really, really quickly. If I can't stomach those that day, then I'll just take it as a capsule. It just takes a bit longer to work. I like to take that, first of all, because it supports my blood sugar. And I think if you can get that, and also I don't want to eat breakfast the minute I wake up. I'm happy
No.
to eat my protein shake within an hour, but not the minute I wake up. That would be too much for me. I need to just become to a little bit. So that helps balance my blood sugar. I find if you get it right from early on in the day, then it avoids all those spikes later on. And women in perimenopause and menopause who are struggling still with hot flashes, even if they're taking estrogen, for example, a lot of women are still getting hot flashes. And it is often to do with adrenaline and or insulin resistance or low blood sugar. So as the blood sugar drops in the night, so there's that blood sugar dysregulation, then the heat, the hot sweats will come on. So you've got to get it right from the beginning.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, well, we'll put those in the notes. That sounds great. When I've done my 8 days of fasting, what will happen then? So you break the fast in quite a comical way. They deliver your breakfast to your door, and it's one almond and some apple puree. And you've got to chew the almond, okay, because you haven't been chewing for 8 days or whatever. And then you've got to chew this apple puree. How do you chew apple puree? Anyway, you just have to sit and chew it.
With the almond, do you do the almond first and then the apple puree, or can you do it together? Could you
I don't know. Choices.
So remember my Pippa Campbell method 5 foundation. One of them is chew each mouthful 30 times or until mush. So you've got your almond and you want to try and chew it 30 times, basically. Maybe add in the mushy apple.
Yeah, I'll have that first. Yeah, so I chew this apple puree, and honestly, it feels so exciting. I haven't chewed for 5 days or 8 days. And then in the evening, you get a soup where you can't see the bottom. It's got bits in. Hooray!
Woo! Get you!
So you're building up gradually, because your digestive system has it's a bit like you wouldn't just eat a rich fatty meal because it's like your digestive system has been asleep. That's like a kind of wake up alarm going. You want to wake it up gently, and so you start off with about 500 calories, I think. And what you eat at this stage is really crucial because your gut microbiome has a chance to regenerate in the best possible way. You can choose what kind of flora you want to grow in your gut garden. And so by feeding it a diverse selection of plant foods, you can grow all sorts of gut bacteria that you may not have had before. And they are looking into the future of this is how to sort of allow your microbiome to die back a little bit in fasting and then to grow the things that will fix whatever condition you have. So yeah, so that it's actually the kind of 6 weeks after the fast that are really, really crucial. What do you want to grow? How do you want to be in your gut? And people have asked me, okay, well, if there's a certain amount of sort of die off or dying back of your bacteria during the fast, aren't you losing all the good bacteria? And I have asked this to the experts, and there is a bit of bacteria loss, but they have studied people after fasting and it had no negative effects on the microbiome at all.
The gut is very clever. It rebalances, and as you say, almost give it a little bit of stress and it will rebuild. But this fiber is so important, which is why I focus. I was just talking about the first meal after even a 12, 13, 14-hour fast. You want 20 to 30 grams of protein, but also fiber. The two most important nutrients after fasting, doesn't matter how long. I do say you're going into it slowly, but say somebody's doing just 12, 13, 14 hours. The two most important things are protein and fiber.
Yeah.
Because you want to go into build mode, but also you want to repopulate. You want to
Yeah.
feed your gut again. This is where interesting because I wonder if they've done stool tests on people who are fasting, if they go on these retreats for 5 weeks. I'd love to see a stool test every week.
Yes, so they did do a stool test before and after. This is a center of scientific research as well. So they've published tons of papers on all the different benefits of fasting, microbiome being one, oxidative stress being another one. So what else have they done? Yeah, exercise and fasting, all of that. During the fast, when your kind of bacteria die back a bit, the ones that have got stuff left to feed on are the bacteria that feed on your mucosal lining and the dead cells that shed from your gut lining. So they're having a party, cleaning up your inside of your gut. And then, so after your fast, you're growing this great, lovely, flourishing gut garden. And so I'll be avoiding alcohol for quite a few weeks. I think I did 3 or 4 months last time. I won't be having any refined sugar because I don't want to grow the bacteria that feed on them. And I'll be eating a wide variety of plants. And of course, getting back into protein as well, because that's important. I have to replenish on that front as well, and the fiber. But I have found a few weird things happening. So some aches and pains that I have, they've definitely died down. My shoulder injury has improved, both with the treatments and I think the anti-inflammatory nature of the fasting. But I've got these really smelly armpits. Honestly, I was taking off my t-shirt the other day. I went, oh my God, what's that smell? Oh, it's me. So I asked the doctor, why do I smell more in fasting? And he gave me 3 possible explanations. The first one is that the food is different, but hey, I'm not really eating very much, so I don't think that applies to me. 2, your body is going through a process of detox. You're eliminating stuff through your skin. There's a huge organ of elimination. My poo smells completely different when I'm here. I know stuff is going on, and that's the explanation that I buy. The third one, slightly worryingly, is that my senses are heightened and I can actually smell myself now. So I have to have an honest conversation with my family. Do I smell normally or have I just not noticed?
Victoria, you don't smell. I know you. You don't smell. You don't have smelly armpits. So I am with you. I think it's number 2 because I've seen this in clinic over the years many times. Don't worry. So you definitely are not a smelly person.
There is a thing that I have dubbed menopong. I have in menopause just found these certain days where the kind of surges of smell. What's that about?
Well, again, we have in perimenopause, menopause, our hormones are still shifting and changing. It's going to affect our detoxification pathways as well. So in perimenopause, when estrogen is high, that can put quite a burden on the liver, which is why it's associated with increased risk of, say, gallstones as well, because then the bile gets sticky and sludgy. And you got to detox somewhere. Like if your liver is congested, where's it going to go? And most often it comes out in the skin. Okay. That could be acne for some women. It could even be a resurgence of their eczema that they haven't had for years, or psoriasis, for example. But smelly armpits is definitely something that, women can suffer with. But when they're going through a detox, for example, fasting, like you're saying, or in perimenopause, menopause, I'd be looking at the liver. Always focus on the liver. Always focus on the liver, when you're doing a fasting. And
Yeah.
also in perimenopause and menopause, I found that women always need liver support.
Yeah, I've definitely found having these liver compresses every day, a hot water bottle on the liver, sort of, and then they wrap you up in a kind of a bandage, like a swaddle, and you can just give your liver a little bit of support. And they do that sort of morning to midday because that's when the liver is most active. Oh, and interestingly, I've actually been sleeping less fasting. You think when you rest, you just sleep for all hours, but your digestion takes up so much energy that when you're not digesting, there's just less for your body to do. So you actually need less sleep. And that's a phenomenon that they've documented here. And your dreams become a lot more vivid. You get this real clarity. And this is to do with the ketone bodies that you're producing when you're in ketosis. And ketone bodies are super fuel for the brain. So it's really regenerative for the brain as well. So it's like someone's turned up the volume of my dreams and the intensity. It's quite an interesting process.
Yeah, and I think how it's just that slightly resetting your nervous system as well. And yeah, that brain activity. So it's really interesting. I'm sort of you might be persuading me to try something like this, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, as a slim person who doesn't need to lose weight, the benefits are this cellular cleanup, longevity, anti-inflammatory for my aches and pains. And also, if you have some kind of like irritable bowel, IBD, it could really support you. If you have like a pain condition like fibromyalgia, fasting is can really support that as well. So there are lots of other things that it can do. This cellular cleanup is just one of the things. And I know that as I get back into my normal eating regime, my weight will stabilize at my natural weight, which is a couple of kilos heavier than I am now. And I don't worry about that. I know that the weight loss is part of this journey, and my weight will stabilize naturally afterwards.
Exactly. I mean, you don't have to worry about it. It's a given. It's not a huge weight loss, but I think you look great. And I think also I'm sensing not just how you look, but I'm sensing how you feel as well.
Oh,
And I'm sensing that you feel very rested, happy, your mood is lifted. So all of those things as well, all of those benefits. So
yeah. And they tell me here that the liver and the skin are the first to regenerate during fasting. So those are results you'll see. And I know every time I come back from fasting, people say, "What have you done to your skin? What treatments have you been having?" And I say, "No treatments. This is just fasting."
well, there we go. The benefits are fantastic. Victoria, again, I have so enjoyed listening to you talk about all this fasting.
So in next week's show, I'll be back from my retreat and we're going to be talking about detoxification because you sent me a detox test to do before Christmas and you're going to give me my results live.
I'm going to give you your results live and we're going to tell everyone all about it and what's going on with your detoxification. And I'd also like to cover as well when we next speak, I'm getting a lot of DMs and comments about women feeling overwhelmed. There's an awful lot of social media things saying, do this in January, do that. So let's talk about some tips and easy things that people can incorporate if they don't want to go the whole hog.
Yeah, January overwhelm, it's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Thank you everyone for listening yet again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode of Hormones and Handstands, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love this episode, please do leave us a review. You can also find us on Instagram at Hormones and Handstands for behind-the-scenes content, sneak peeks, and to let us know what you want to hear more about. See you for another one next week.